Hi friends, this is Niraj here once again, and in today's video I would like to talk to you about not about the markets in general or stock markets in particular, but about the economy and particularly where the government really needs to give support to the which industry or the which sector specifically, because that government support because of that industry has come to a standstill, or that economic imbalance is distorted because of the government's intervention, not because of the natural demand supply dynamics. And regarding the future business themes and insights, which if you know, I had already talked about this in one of my previous videos, which you can find out when you subscribe to my videos. You will find out that in 2 weeks before, I had come out with a video regarding the future business themes and insights at how the future post-corona virus will look like, and which industries will thrive, or which are the new industries, which are the new sectors which will come up, and the future business themes which needs to be invested in. So that you can find in my previous videos, but in today's videos, let us talk about the government support required for which is the basically industry. So before starting, I would like to generalize this video. I would like to talk about how I have segregated this industry, or the company or sectors, basically not company specific, but the sectors which need government support because of the previous the phase before coronavirus pandemic started, how that industry was doing, and how now, because of this pandemic lockdown and shutdown everywhere in the world, how because of that this particular industry is suffering, and that is the reason which needs really the government support. So let us talk about the first is in this list, is topmost in this list, is aviation industry. As you know that in last 2 months, most of the flights, airlines have completely come to a standstill all over the world, and in India also particularly. And the way the things are happening, the things are panning out, it looks like that it will particularly prolong to say June also, where even after that the talk about this in India opening up of lockdown post May 4th, but immediately I don't see that aviation airlines or the flights will be allowed. Maybe flights will be allowed domestically slowly, but international flights will only be allowed post June or so. So such a long period of time, and most of these countries have continued to do the same thing, where this all these flights are banned. So they are all lying in that hangars in that airports, and that's it, everything completely come to a shutdown. So this is one particular industry which has suffered really massively because of the government intervention, not because of its industry supply dynamics or the demand dynamic situation. So economic viability has been really distressed by the government intervention, and this is my view, is that this is the industry which really needs government support. Which kind of support? I don't know. I mean, it's up to the government to decide, but it can be in form of the tax reduction, like government charges in India. At least they charge a lot of this fuel tax and customs duty on that ATF, and users charges, and those kinds of many charges. Because if you look at the basic price of a ticket, which is less than the half, and the other half is of all these taxes. So in that form of at least that way, government can reduce those taxes and surcharges, which can be in a way supporting the industry without government directly giving any cash infusion to this industry. So that way government should be ready to support this industry, because without aviation industry, I don't think so that the world over the economic activities will come to a halt, because you can't travel, you can't go and negotiate, you can't trade, you can't so this is the basic, this movement of goods and human resources. It's the basic essential, that freedom, and that is where this aviation industry becomes the most vital and crucial industry which requires government support, because it was not its own dynamics which is they are suffering from, but because of the government intervention they are suffering. That is the reason. The first is this aviation industry. Then the second industry which will need some kind of a government is this hotel and hospitality industry also, because of by this lockdown and strict measures, this industry is also really suffering. And how this industries will survive is, my view is that there will be a lot of uh, you know closing down of many of this mid level and small level hotels, and there will be consolidation and mergers and acquisition happening in this space. And even though overall broad based government has through RBI and banking support, they have made announcements in the form of that credit period is extended without any additional interest, and for 3-4 months that installment requirement or the payment of the interest payments also can be considered, if non payment of interest also can be considered as not NPA. And this kind of support government broadly announced for everybody, for most of this MSME and industry and individual level also. But for the second is this industry also will require this kind of support. My particular view is that most of this what is happening in today is that it's the small guys, the small guys will anyway are getting government support in form of, say, food and in form of that cash infusion happening. And large corporates also will survive because of their that financial resources. They can withstand all these shocks of closing down and everything. It is mostly it is going to be the mid level companies, mid level businesses, and those kind of businesses will suffer. And that is where I don't think so even government will be able to do much, because most of these are these businesses will survive because they are not dependent on the government, on the bank's credit, or they are dependent on their own cash generation, and they're supported by that working capital means it's they generate cash, and they put their own money. So in a case, I think many of these businesses will survive where they are not dependent on the banks and the credit. Those businesses which are heavily indebted and dependent on the government the credit or the bank's credit, they will have to suffer, and there will be a lot of large level consolidation and mergers and acquisition happening. So big will become bigger, and the small and medium kind of will be wiped out. So those who are not strong enough resource wise and financial wise, they will be the most suffering guys. So after aviation, let us go one by one this industry specific, that whether it requires government support or not, in my view, as per my view. Second is auto industry. Auto anyways, it's not needed, as it was anyway suffering from this balance happening because of the industrial structure of this industry is undergoing a rapid change and huge change, and there was already a demand issue ongoing even before the coronavirus pandemic happened, because as you see in the last year that the demand has gone up drastically in double digit percentage. So in this industry there will be huge consolidation, and M&A activities will be happening. So you have to look out for these opportunities where who will survive and who will not. That big, again, it is the global bigger auto majors which will survive, and the small and medium brands which are not strong. This is a brand specific industry where the brand carries a lot of value. They will be gone out of the business. The third is banking and financial institution. Definitely it requires government support, and government is already supporting it. So it is already that kind of, because whatever the credit or the support to the other industries and MSMEs has to be given, it is given by this through the channels of this banking and financial institutions. And also this is the most important, because if any collapse happens in this particular sector, then across the sector means full economy may come down, collapse, and it's havoc. So sure, This government will continue to support banks and financial institutions. Then agro-based also. Agro-based anyway, government will continue to support, and government is supporting. So agrochemicals and chemical-based, those kind of industries which is related to the agricultural, pesticide, fertilizer and all these thing industries. So government support is there, and it will be definitely now with, already when they are talking about that post 20th April, most of this activities has to be again reopened. So the first and foremost is agricultural and related industries and village-based industries and industries which are located outside municipal limits. So that way that will again come up. So that is where it's not so much in a bad shape, and it will come up as government support is already there. Then we talked about this hotels and tourism, we already talked about, and the power and capital goods. Anyway, this was an industry which was already in even without coronavirus pandemic, it was undergoing a lot of structural changes and demand issues because of the overall economic and manufacturing activity was declining because of the demand issue basically. So here government can't do anything again other than that reforms happening in discoms, distribution companies and and generation companies. So other than that, it's not a government kind of which is suffering because of the government intervention or the government issues of lockdown. So I don't think so this industry also needs any other support other than what is ongoing reforms and support happening, not special support required for because of this coronavirus pandemic. Real estate, it had hit already before also this coronavirus pandemic. It was in the distress because of the huge inventory built up over a few years and high prices and reluctance of the builders to liquidate this inventory by lowering the prices, and there are a lot of these other issues were there. So any case, it's not going to government is not going to give any more support other than just all this credit enhancement has been given, and it doesn't require also because it requires a lot of structural changes in this industry, real estate industry, which thanks to this pandemic it will further go into much more structural changes and consolidation and M&A and removal of the inefficient and the small players. It will happen, and more consolidation will happen. So bigger will become more bigger. So that is the reality of this economics. You can't do anything. Government can't help in any of these matters. Pharma anyway is no needed because this is the most hotshot. Pharma and healthcare is the most hotshot sector as of now, and it doesn't require government help per se. Metals and mining, again, these are all the big capital intensive businesses which is mostly run by the big corporates, as it requires a huge balance sheet to set up and run this metals mining resources businesses. In this also, what will happen is that once everything activity starts coming back to normal, you will see that by that time many of these small inefficient players will be wiped out, and there will be a lot of consolidation and mergers and acquisition happening. And that is what also it should be, because this is a sector where inefficient utilization of very valuable resources are finite, right, in the world, and why it should be frittered away by any small and micro players where for example, if you require only say 1.3 tons of coking coal and 1.6 tons of say iron ore for 1 ton of steel. So if there are small and inefficient players, they will be instead of this three tons for making 1 ton of steel, they will be requiring 3.5 tons and more power because of the leakages and because of not the latest technology, because of not automation. So all this national resources getting wasted away by this inefficient players, they will undergo huge changes. They will be forced to undergo huge changes, and they will not be able to, many of them who are not able to undertake these changes and withstand this financial distress, they will be wiped out, and more consolidation and mergers and acquisition, and there will be few players remaining in this sector. So that is also no support is required by government. As per, it's a natural phenomena of restructuring which will happen, and that will decide the who will come out the winner. So this was in my, and this is what I'm talking about is India specific, but this is more general in a way that all the countries, I think, undertaking more or less depending on their structure of economy, where that which is the more happening, which is more service oriented economy, or which is manufacturing oriented economy, or construction oriented economy, depend on mining oriented economy. So depending on this specific country wise, there will be little bit changes, but overall which are the basic which I told about, that which will be the industries which will really need immediate support and which should be provided by the government, and which is required for the running of the economy, continuation of the economy. So in general, that is what I just wanted to throw out my ideas, and I would welcome even if any viewers have some more ideas and regarding this, it would be nice to hear from you. Thank you once again, and see you with my next video. This is Niraj here from Moscow, and you please encourage my video by subscribing to my channel and like it and share it with as many friends as possible. Ciao.